Hello and welcome back to North 100, your favorite Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Liam, and joining me today are Alex and Jeremy. No Serge, but that's okay, we'll survive. A reminder that this show, like everything else you see on the Loading Ready Run video network, is brought to you by you, with your support over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So thanks so much for that support. We literally couldn't do it without you. And before we go any deeper into the show, we're going to talk about our first opening segment, which is the best card you're not playing. And today, that's me. I'm going to be introducing that card. And the best card you're not playing is Lat-Nam's Legacy. A card with many arts, not many of them good, confusing old wording, and slightly more clear new wording.
Is there a reason we don't call this card Blue Man Group?
I mean, because that name isn't descriptive, but it is...
I disagree.
I mean, there's 2 blue men on the card, I suppose.
And 4 blue men on the other art.
Yeah.
Face.
At any rate, what this card does is you shuffle a card from your hand into your library. Then, on the next upkeep, you get a trigger to draw 2 cards. Word to the wise, you can miss this trigger. It's very possible. This trigger can also get stifled. It sucks.
It's also costs 1 and a blue and is an instant.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's also important.
Yeah, trivial information.
Jeremy, Liam, why would you play this card?
This card's really good at shuffling away cards that are bad in certain matchups. So a lot of the blue decks have this problem that they can classically run into, where you end up with sort of like wrong half of the deck. In fact, a lot of decks run into wrong half of the deck problems in Highlander. And Lat-Nam's Legacy is a really nice way to mitigate that because it turns one of the bad cards in your hand and itself into 2 new cards. So most famously, I think, this card sees play in like Blue Moon shuffling away Platinum Empyreans because you just have to get that card back into your deck, but you can play it in a wide breadth of different decks.
Yeah, also blue-white control, it shuffles Entreat the Angels back into your deck a lot.
Ooh.
Yeah, Terminus, same kind of idea if you want to.
Yeah, Terminus is much more castable than Entreat, but...
Yeah. But anyway, so shuffle away bad cards, turn them into new cards. We won't guarantee the new cards will be good, but they definitely won't be as bad as the ones you're shuffling away, maybe.
Is this cantrip like number 6 or 7?
I think it's higher up than that now. It started off lower, but like, I don't know, Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain,
Opt.
Impulse.
Impulse, and then maybe this. So yeah, maybe
Yeah,
it's 6.
I think it's
I
6.
might even play this before Impulse in some decks.
Or what about the Jeskai one that's like bad Impulse? The one where you only look 3.
Anticipate.
Oh, Anticipate? Yeah, this is definitely better than Anticipate.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Just getting, like, in almost every game of Highlander, you're going to have cards in your hand that are not good in that matchup or, like, have very limited use.
Well, I mean, your floor with this is like, I have a land I don't want to play.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, so it's very good. But as I say, really important that you catch this trigger. Don't miss it.
Yeah.
It can be really awkward.
The floor with this is actually that you just don't have another card in your hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's
you,
pretty bad.
you can't cast it if you don't have another card in your hand. You have to be able to... Well, you can cast it.
It won't
just
do anything.
Won't do anything.
Yeah. You have to shuffle the card in to get to draw the other 2 in your next upkeep.
Yeah.
So unlike a card like Sea Beyond, which is sorcery speed, 1 in a blue, draw 2, shuffle 1 back into your deck, which you could just cast as your only card. This is not as good as that, but still pretty good. Yeah, so without further ado, that's Lat-Nam's Legacy. Today we're going to be talking about the Commander 2018 set. The Commander sets are often really good to Highlander.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of powerful cards that have come out of the Commander sets. The Confluences, famously.
True Name Nemesis.
True Name Nemesis is a Commander card originally.
Well, like, Commander is this format where Wizards has license to print whatever goofball stuff they feel like, and it doesn't have to work in a draft environment or, you know,
A standard environment.
Or
Or even a modern environment.
Yeah, they're just like, we'll print whatever we feel like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that works quite well for an Eternal format like ours. It's always on the lookout for goofball new cards. And
Totally.
we've got a little pile of them.
Yeah, so just one episode of set review this time. We're going to be cranking through them pretty quickly. But the first one we're going to be talking about is the only white card we're talking about, and this is Boreas Charger. So this is a 2 and a white for a Pegasus. It's a 2/1 with flying that says, when Boreas Charger leaves the battlefield, choose an opponent who controls more lands than you. Search your library for a number of Plains cards equal to the difference and reveal them. Put one of them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest into your hand, then shuffle your library. Jared, talk to me about this card.
So originally I thought this was an enters the battlefield ability.
It is
But
not.
I actually think it might almost be better as a leaves the battlefield ability.
Really?
Yeah, because if you're playing, I imagine this in like a White Weenie or Death and Taxes style deck where you're going to be playing Armageddons. And late in the game, maybe when they eventually kill your flyer, they're going to be probably quite a ways ahead on lands. And if you're able to set up an Armageddon and this dying in the same turn where you're getting like 3, maybe 4 lands, which isn't like, it's a nice scenario, but not wholly unrealistic, that puts you way ahead post Armageddon.
Interesting.
So you're saying you like cash this in, have it die, get your 3 extra lands, and then cast Armageddon, and you are going to have more lands in play than they are, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Not necessarily in play, just like in hand, ready to go, because, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's even better, right?
Yeah.
Because it's actually better with the Armageddon.
It's weird. White has this sort of search for planes mechanic that shows up on a couple of cards. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, it's like a sub-theme, right? Like land tax is another one.
Yeah, well, land
it's
tax
also
and tithe.
It's also nice that this doesn't say basics, so you can do the same trick that people have been doing with Tithe, is you can get cycling lands, like irrigated farmland or scattered groves, which are both plains cards that cycle. So
Cool.
Fair
there's
enough.
a few options available to this card. I think it's better than it maybe first looks.
It's also a 2/1 flyer for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Well, what's next
reasonable.
on the plate?
What's next on the docket, you ask? Well, Alex, we have Estrid's Invocation, not Innovocation, as I tried to spell it at first. So this is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. You may have Estrid's Invocation enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment you control, except it gains at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile this enchantment. If you do, return to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Okay. So it's 3 mana, copy any enchantment, and you may blink it every turn.
Correct.
I think you play this in Enchantress?
Ding, 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 ding.
Hey! I cracked the riddle.
Yeah, you figured you cracked the code.
I cracked the code.
It's kind of interesting. When Jared and I were talking about it before the show, Jared said he didn't play copy enchantment in Enchantress the last time he played it.
Classic blunder.
Well, or not. We don't really know.
I don't know.
But this is just better copy enchantment, right?
It is better in Enchantress for sure. Like, copy enchantment lets you copy their enchantments as well. So like if they like control magic or treachery or like have a search for Ascanta, you can copy that, which like will come up.
Yeah.
But the fact that this blinks to get constellation triggers off Eidolon Blossoms is a big enough deal that I think that makes this better.
Are any of the other enchantresses worded as when it enters the battlefield, or are they all cast?
I think they're all cast.
Even the newest one?
I believe Satyr Enchanter is also cast.
Fair enough.
All right, well, another
Pretty
tool
sure
for
my
a
dismal
kind of niche
M19
deck.
limited experience will tell me that that card says cast.
Wah, wah.
Why? Because you've had to play it?
I had a deck with 4 of them.
I don't know if that's great or very bad.
From my experience, very bad.
I see. All right, fair enough. The next card we're talking about is Ever-Watching Threshold. So this is 2 and a blue for an enchantment that says when an opponent attacks you and or a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, draw a card.
This is just every time you get attacked, draw.
Correct.
Yeah? This seems less good in a non-multiplayer format, but it's still just kind of like an enchantment that is probably drawing you a card a turn.
Yeah, well, it's very good in Enchantress where they're probably only getting to attack you with 1 creature a turn due to your Ghostly Prison-esque effects. And so if you're able to start churning through your deck while doing that, it's just going to help you set up the lock and establish it even further. So
It is nice that it triggers on planeswalker attacks, because sometimes this effect is like if they deal damage or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is like the new templating that they've been using. It's like attack you or and or a
Gideon
planeswalker you
Jura
control.
loves this card.
yes.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Have a party, draw some cards.
I do think you want to be playing this card in a deck that is limiting the number of attackers that you can be attacked with, though, because like
You only get 1 card, regardless of whether they attack with 1 or 5
and
creatures.
so this isn't worth playing in like a control deck as a way to be like, well, don't attack me, because
It's like,
the
I
aggro deck
don't
is going to
care.
be like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of priced into attacking you with all these things anyway. But like
exactly.
combining this with Ghostly Prisons, or maybe in some kind of like prison deck with like Crawl Space or effects of that variety, Peacekeeper.
Oh, Peacekeeper. Yeah. Well, they're just not going to attack you if you.
Sorry, not Peacekeeper. Silent Arbiter is the one
That's
I'm
the
thinking
one.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a sweet interaction.
Okay.
All right, the next card we're talking about is Primordial Mist by Stephen King. So this is 4 and a blue for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, you may manifest the top card of your library, which means put a face down, the top card of your library face down as a 2/2 creature. You can turn it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. And then the second line of text of this card is exile a face down permanent you control face up. wait, exile a face down permanent you control face up. Okay,
Yes.
I see. So you exile and you have to turn it face up. And you may play that card
Ooh.
this turn. So Jared, you were saying that there are some people who are pretty excited about this card, right?
Yeah, there's some people I know over in the German lander scene who are really excited for this card.
Yeah.
And I overlooked it initially. I was like, 5-mana enchantment does nothing. But I thought about it in at least one context where I could see playing it. I would play it in taking turns.
Oh,
Where-
okay.
You're casting this card ahead of schedule, like turn 4 at the latest. And if if that's a deck that just like wants to slow the game down and buy time, so getting the random 2/2s off the top of your deck is good. You have some creatures that turning face up, you'll get some value, like Courser of Crufix or Tireless Tracker or whatever.
And remind me, turning face up doesn't trigger enter the battlefield abilities, right?
It does not,
Okay.
no. So, but you can get the enter the battlefield abilities by using the second ability if you would like. So,
And I will admit I misread this at first. When I first read it, I thought you had to exile one face down card to flip another one. So you had to like kind of like 2-for-1 yourself to flip them up. But it's much better if you just get to this
it
card
is,
basically just lets you cast your face down cards.
that's exactly what it does. So like
that
if
is
you-
a lot better.
Yeah, so like in the Taking Turns deck, if you exile any of your Time Walks face down as creatures, you can then start flipping them up, and it's just giving you basically another draw to hit a Time Walk a turn.
Do you think you'd also play like Whisperwood Elemental in the deck then? Or do you think that's like going too far?
I don't think you want to play additional manifest cards with this card, unless you're planning to play them already. Like, Whisperwood Elemental is like a reasonable card. You could play it anyways, but I wouldn't add it to Taking Turns just because I added this card. I think this card is good enough by itself.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it makes an army.
Let's make an army. One of the army in the can kind of cards.
Neat.
All right. Oh,
So
that's
3
sweet.
blue enchantments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the blue commander decks is enchantment themed.
Whoa.
So there will be more Enchantment Matters cards, spoiler alert. But for now, we're going to move on to black cards. And this card, I think, might be the one that's most flavorful in the set. This is
Yep.
Entreat the Dead. So this is XX black, black, black for a sorcery that says return target X creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. But it also has Miracle. So if it's the first card you draw on a turn, you can reveal it and pay its Miracle cost instead of its regular cost. And the Miracle cost is X black, black. So you basically get to cut the cost almost in half. So,
This is
Alex, what do you think
cool.
of this card? Yeah.
It's very cool. I mean, I'm trying to think what deck wants to play this. Like, I would almost want to play this in Aristocrats. There's a couple of cards that are similar to this one that I've not gotten to play.
Like Wake the Dead?
Yeah, the problem is that most of those effects either like stuff like Wake the Dead or
Rally the
Yeah,
Ancestors?
Rally the Ancestors. There's usually some sort of caveat where you have to like exile them or sacrifice them at the end of turn, which is usually not a problem. This one, they stay in play, irrespective of how much they cost. Setting up a Miracle in a non-blue based deck is frequently pretty tricky.
Black does have access to Vampiric Tutor, which is an okay way to do
Yeah?
it. And
Imperial Seal.
Imperial Seal is the other way you can do it.
And Cruel Tutor.
Cruel Tutor, you shouldn't play that card.
No.
Yeah.
It also has Liliana of the whichever one.
Liliana Vess.
That one. Don't play that card either.
Yeah.
That card's alright.
Does,
In mono black.
Does Reanimator want to play this?
That's what I was thinking. I think it does. You don't think so?
No.
I think this card's really good.
Well, I guess the problem would be, well, I don't know. Like Reanimator is like blue based. It could have the ability to set this up, and then the worst case here is you pay 5 to get a creature back, so it's Zombify.
It's worse than Zombify.
Well, it's worse than
Zombify's cost
Zombify
4.
because it's like,
Yeah.
And Zombify costs 4.
Yeah.
does it? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was 5.
Zombify's 4.
3 and a
3 and a
black.
black. Yeah, you like kind of have to be miracling. this
But
to
yeah,
get full
miracling
value.
this even for 2 is
So-
pretty sweet.
The problem with this in Reanimator is that you really want to be very fast in Reanimator, especially getting your first creature out. And in most games, you want that first creature to end the game. It won't always, but you're banking on them having to spend a bunch of time and resources dealing with your first creature, such that you'll then, when you start reanimating further creatures, that they're just out of time and resources.
Yeah.
And this doesn't help with that game plan. It helps in the really drawn out games when they have no more resources, you're top decking, or you're able to set up a mystical tutor or a vamp or something,
That's
and you
sort
get
of what I was
this.
thinking.
But I just think you'd rather have like Living Death is better more often and does the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
close.
not quite, but I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. They're different cards, but
It's
Alright.
really cool.
It's a
and
very
it
cool
looks-
card.
It's a super cool
Yeah.
card.
that Black Miracle portrait, very
yeah,
sweet.
It's very.
The next card we're going to talk about is Knight Incarnate. So this is 5 and a black for an elemental with a death touch. It's a 3/4. And it says, when Death Incarnate leaves the battlefield, all creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn, and you can evoke it for 3 and a black. And evoke is, you may cast this spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. So, Jared, talk to me about this card.
I really like this card. I think it's a great card for black mid-range decks because it's a way to put another Wrath type effect in your deck while it not being dead in matchups where having a Wrath is not good.
Yeah.
I think I would almost always play this card over Languish, which is 2 black, give all creatures -4/-4, unless you really need the fourth
Yeah.
-1/-1. Like if your meta really is dependent on that, then obviously Languish might be better. But
Yeah, I mean, also -3/-3 is like, it hits that weird sweet spot where your creatures that have 4 toughness will live through this.
yeah, I
And
don't-
sometimes you can be playing incidental creatures that happen to have 4 toughness, and then you just like wipe out the aggro deck, and you're still standing.
exactly. So I'm a big fan of this card.
I love the evoke mechanic. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I like this art. Art's really sweet.
It's a bad.
It's all like red heart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you.
The next card we're talking about is Sower of Discord, and Jared and I spent a good amount of time before the show talking about we can't decide whether this card is insane or actively unplayable. It's one of those two things.
Okay.
And we're not sure. So this is it's a demon. It's 4 black. It's a 6/6. It's flying.
It looks
As
sweet.
Sower of Discord enters the battlefield, choose 2 players.
So that's you and your opponent.
Yes.
Presumably, I don't think you can choose the same player twice.
Don't think so.
And whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, the other chosen player also loses that much life. So
Holy
basically
moly.
it means that from now on, whenever damage is dealt, everyone takes that damage. And so Jared was speculating like life gain deck maybe. You just like, basically the idea is if you start with more life than your opponent when this hits the battlefield, they have to kill it before they can kill you with damage. Because otherwise they're going to die first. So
Stop hitting yourself.
yeah, well, but also whenever you hit them, you hit yourself.
Wow.
So
That,
it's like-
So hear me out.
okay.
You have more life than them.
Yeah.
You cast like, I don't know, a kitchen finks or something.
Okay.
Right,
You're up
22
on
to
life.
20.
Then you cast any of the Soul Eaters. Wait, no, that's pay life,
That's
isn't it?
pay
Phyrexian
life.
Mana's pay life.
No good. Has to
The
be
worst.
Dealt damage.
All right, I'm off it.
Yeah, so this card's really weird. It's possible that like there's some like big black-white aggro deck or something, or maybe like a Marty life gain deck where like you just think you're going to be at like 30 when your opponent's at 14, and you get
You
to
can
like,
also just put a bunch of lose life effects into your deck.
it has to be damage.
No, but I'm saying if you can make them lose life, you break the symmetry, right?
Oh, sure. Okay. I see
So
what
like
you're saying.
Deathrite Shaman is really good with this card. You like make them lose 2 life, and you're breaking the symmetry.
Right, and then they can't attack you without taking damage.
Exactly.
The one issue I see is that you've got to be somehow pressuring their life total or buffering theirs, I guess, but also playing a 6-drop in your deck, which are two things that do not often go together.
Yeah, like I am just having such a hard time seeing this played over even something like Grave Titan.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not.
you might
I'm
play it
not
as
saying it's
well.
going to be common. I just thought this
No.
card was really interesting.
It is.
Card is
No, it's
very
definitely interesting.
I'm
Sweet
like-
art.
If only you
Good.
could choose the same player.
Because if you play it while you have more life, the game becomes so miserable for your opponent.
Well, they just like have to kill it before they can race you.
Yeah, and you just get to start thumping in with a 6/6 flare.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
What if there's multiple games going on at the same table? Can you just name someone else in another game?
Oh, that's a great question, Beach. Judge Jared?
That's
No.
All right, well,
okay.
it would be good if you could. Unfortunately, no good. I imagine, not that this is a Commander podcast, but this sounds like a sweet card in Commander.
Probably.
You get to like play this and choose the other 2 people at the table and be like, well, it's Battle Royale, except I'm the Overseer. Sorry.
Well, no. Then they both just attack you.
Very awkward. But then you attack one of them and kill both of them.
That is true. It is. This card is the nut. If you're like the person who shows up to Commander and everyone gangs up on you,
You get to only
this
kill
just
one
this
person.
just evens the playing field.
Sort of, yeah. All right. Enough about Commander. Let's move on to red cards. So the first red card we have to talk about is Enchanter's Bane. And I saw people tweeting about this card. I forget which WotC employee it was. But anyway.
I'm surprised to see this on the list.
Well, so fair enough. It's not playable in Highlander, but we're going to talk about why that is. So Enchanter's Bane is 1 in a red for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, target enchantment deals damage equal to its converted mana cost to its controller unless that player sacrifices it. So this is red enchantment hate. It's crazy. This has never existed before. Surely red decks want it. Well, problematically, there are not enough enchantments in Highlander to warrant playing this card. If we had sideboards, maybe you'd want to bring this in certain matchups, but we don't. And so it's just not a reliable source of damage or enchantment sacrifice. So although this card is going to look flashy and it does something that has never been done before, it's not playable. You shouldn't play it. Anyone else have any other thoughts? Or have I?
Yeah, it's just...
Yep.
Sweet art.
Just other decks don't play enough enchantments
Correct.
to warrant this.
And even if they did, those enchantments don't cost a lot of mana, and they're probably willing to pay a few life. It's just like...
Yeah, it's a punishment.
I don't know. If somebody's like, okay, yeah, I'll soak a couple of shocks so that I can keep my Sylvan Library in play, I don't care.
Yeah, it's just not worth it.
So...
All right, the next card we're talking about is playable in Highlander. This is Emissary of Grudges. So this is 5 in a red for an Efreet. It's a 6/5 with flying and haste. And as Emissary of Grudges enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent. It's going to be a big secret as to who it is.
You can like write it face up with Sharpie.
Yeah. Then it has an activated ability. You can reveal the player you chose. Choose new targets for target spell or ability if it's controlled by the chosen player, and if it targets you or a permanent you control, activate this ability only once.
That's cool.
This card is really cool.
That's cool.
It's playable in some decks. It's problematically not a dragon, but it probably gets into the Big Idiot's dragon deck. Big Idiot
it
Dragons
does a
deck.
reasonable enough dragon impression by it being big and having flying and haste.
Yeah, well, it thumps really hard and fast. Its color is really splashy. Like 5 red is...
You don't need to be very red to cast
No,
this.
you don't.
No. Like I could actually even see this getting played at like some green-red ramp decks.
Definitely.
Also, like, you get 1 misdirection that can't be countered.
Yeah.
It doesn't misdirect spells, so it doesn't, like, beat a counter spell.
Yes, it...
Yeah, choose new targets for target spell or ability.
But it's only if it's...
Targets you or
Oh,
you control, so it
yeah.
can't beat counter spells, but it beats like removal spells.
It beats removal spells, it beats a lethal burn spell, so it's like kind of good at defending you against burn decks, very good at
defends
closing
itself.
out games
Yeah.
quickly, and defends itself or another creature you choose to defend.
So like might well get in twice even. Yeah, this card's sweet actually. I was like, oh, I guess we'll include it on the list, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like,
No, I
we're
looked at
into
this
it.
card and I was like, oh, this card's sick.
card also looks a bit like a Balrog.
It does.
Honest. Needs a sword and a whip, but you know.
I probably need one of these.
Yeah, this card's,
Sure, that can be
this card's
arranged.
pretty cool.
All right, the next card we're talking about is Reality Scramble. So this is 2 red for a sorcery. Trust me, Alex. Let's go. We're going somewhere with this. It says put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card that shares a card type with that permanent. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and it has retrace. Jared, you want to break the news to Alex as to why this card is good?
Yeah, so this is just another polymorph, but it's like way better against counterspells because of retrace. It just lets you like jam this every polymorph every turn until the cows come home.
So, I've not heard of a deck that wants to play polymorph.
It's
The polymorph deck.
You have no creatures except for Emrakul in your deck.
And then you do things like Conley Garden. Awkwardly enough, you can't use like Inkmoth Nexus with this because it's a land, right? Is it still a land in addition to a creature, so it'll like trigger off the first land you hit? So it's slightly worse than Polymorph.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Polymorph
it
explicitly
doesn't work
says
with creature lands, but it does work with creature tokens.
Which is often what you're doing.
And it doesn't work, I guess it doesn't work with artifact
Creatures.
You
creatures
know,
either.
But that's fine.
You know
Yeah.
what card you can play with this?
What?
Carekeep.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one. A land that
if
makes
you have red
0
mana.
ones.
Well, presumably you're going to have red mana.
I mean, I would hope if you're planning to cast the double red spell.
Yeah, but I've been looking for an excuse to get red into polymorph because red has some of the best token generators. Like all the...
It also has Mizzix's Mastery, which is very good in that deck.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
We'll debate that at
It's
a later date.
Kher keep. Yeah, this thing.
Kiriki.
This is one of my favorites. It's a legendary. It's legendary?
Yeah.
There's only one Kiriki, Alex.
Yeah, okay, fine.
You can't
geez.
have more than one Kiriki. It's not. All right.
Taps are colorless, and for 1 and a red and tap, you can make an 0/1 kobold.
Yeah, and then you reality hemorrhage it or whatever. Or scramble, sorry. Reality hemorrhage
Scramble it, and it turns into Emrakul.
It's like questionable burn spell.
All right. So anyway, that's why that card's good. And it has Retrace, so very powerful against the counterspell decks. You just get to be like, did I draw another polymorph? No? Oh, I drew a land. I drew another polymorph.
I definitely
Excellent.
read Retrace as Rebound.
Ah, not as good. There is a rebound polymorph, but it's terrible.
Yeah,
there?
Retrace
Blessed
is
Incarnation.
kind of spoopy.
Oh, that's not a polymorph.
I know, it's not very good. It only polymorphs their things, right?
I
Okay.
believe so.
Yeah, it's not good. Don't worry about
It's
it, Deej,
fine.
if you can't find it.
All right, well, what do you got next?
Next, we've got another red card. This is Treasure Nabber. And if you look very closely, this fine young goblin has scored himself a soul ring. Well,
Oh!
scored itself a soul ring, I guess I should say. Yeah, so that's the soul ring that it's got there. Kind of cool. So Treasure Nabber is 2 and a red for a goblin rogue. Goes into the Prowl deck. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. So this is kind of interesting because it does exactly what it says, which is that it steals artifacts when people tap them for mana. It's like kind of a potent hate card against the Paradox Engine deck that's very popular in our deck. Because
Very good.
yeah, because they only get 1 use. I think this card is a little narrow, and so
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean-
you should only play it if there's like a lot of Paradox Engine and other artifacty.
If this didn't
things in your
have
room.
3 power, I think it would be terrible. But it at least has that going for
That's
it.
true.
You know, because like paying
I think
3.
it's a meta card.
I agree.
Yeah.
Also,
no, well,
does
absolutely.
anyone else see the goblin on those ears?
Wait,
Pardon?
This
Yeah.
goblin's ears are massive.
Oh,
Yeah, they're very big.
I see.
Well, that's so, you know, he tells if people are around so he can sneak in and take the soul ring.
That makes sense.
It's
But
possible this goblin just like flies with its ears.
it's like
Flies into the
the,
various
the
rooms.
Dumbo of goblins.
Exactly, precisely.
All right.
But anyway, so yeah, this is a meta card. It's kind of interesting. It's definitely gonna get someone at some point, right? Like someone's gonna Eldritch Evolution it into Treasure Napper, and then the like Paradox Academy opponent, their Paradox Academy opponent's gonna be like, why did I bring this deck?
Also, the flavor text on this card is sick. The law of givesies backsies is respected by every noble pursuer of shiny things.
Yeah, all right.
That is pretty good. All right, the next card we're talking about is Saheeli's Directive.
Well, what's she up to?
Genesis Waving Artifacts. So this is-
Okay.
This is X red for a sorcery with Improvise, which means each artifact you tap after you've done activating mana abilities pays for 1. So you can tap artifacts to help pay for this as well. This says, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of artifact cards with converted mana cost to X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into your graveyard. So this does exactly as I said. It Genesis waves artifacts. So if you can make a bunch of mana, you know, maybe cast this for like 10, 15, 20, it has the potential to do some work. And it's kind of interesting. It's triple red, which is the most awkward part because Academy decks are definitely the ones that are looking at this, and triple red is not a color combination they typically want to make.
Also, not a lot of red artifacts.
There are not a lot of red artifacts. There are artifact matter cards, though, that are red that are pretty good. Like Duretti is pretty good and is red. There's Trash for Treasure, which is red, which is a nice one.
Trash for Treasure is sort of like almost sideways combos with this because this throws everything in the bin.
But it doesn't throw any artifacts in the bin.
It
Awkwardly.
can if you
I
want
guess
to.
if they're not small enough.
You may.
You may. You can just throw stuff in the bin. I take it back, Alex. You're smarter than I am.
Wow, that escalated fast.
Yeah, sorry. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a big old make a bunch of stuff. I mean, artifact-based decks are very good at making tons of mana. So.
Well, and so, Jerry, you were saying you kind of wanted to get red into Academy, right?
Yeah. Well, I like playing less, at this point, less traditional, non-Paradox Academy decks that like upheaval and wildfire people into the dirt. And if you're looking to do that, this card's, you know,
Very, very good.
real nice.
How high a number do you think you have to cast this for before you're happy?
I
5, 6?
I think you regularly want to be able to cast this using 10 mana, so X is 7.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't think that's that difficult. I plan on doing that on like turn 4 or 5 at the latest.
Do you think this is playable in Big Red, or it's just an Academy deck? Like, how many
Ooh.
artifacts need to be in your deck?
It depends. I think you need the ability to hit some things that actually end the game. So in Big Red, you want to be hitting things like Sundering Titan, Wormcoil Engine, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're going to need to, like Steel Hellkite, you're going to need to put more of those cards in your deck. Some of them don't
I could
always
definitely
make the cut.
see that, like, if you played this in Big Red and you're just like, X is 5, you know, because I'm on the back leg, and it's like rock, 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 dough.
Yeah.
But I get a Solemn Simulacrum. Hey.
Hooray, you get
Yeah.
to draw a card.
So I think you need to be like pretty in on hitting reliably.
Okay,
But
fair enough. The next card we're going to talk about is Varchild, Betrayer of Kaldor. I put a Y in here instead of a J. Sorry, Beach.
all right, Liam. I imagine you're going to want to talk about this card.
Well, let me tell them what the card does first. So this is...
I'll do it. I'll tag in so you don't have to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, fine.
All right. Varchild, Betrayer of Kaldor. 2 and a red for a 3/3. Legendary human knight.
Human.
And a knight.
Less relevant.
That deck's getting there. It's not. It is. All right. Whenever Varchild, Betrayer of Kaldor, deals combat damage to a player, so it's got to deal damage to a player.
All right. Stop with this biased description of the card.
That player creates that many 1/1 red survivor creature tokens.
You give them creatures?
What's a survivor? Survivors your opponent's control can't block. All right. Giving them to them, so at least that's not the worst. And they can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. All right, sure. When Varchild leaves the battlefield, gain control of all survivors.
Oh!
Yeah. So what Jared's been trying to do with this entire reading of the card is communicate to you that it's not good, because he thinks it's not good. And he's wrong. This card is very good. So the reason this card is good is because you have to block it, and if you don't, you're just going to die on the spot. It creates tokens that are irrelevant, largely, unless your opponent's like playing exactly Aristocrats, or I guess like a Gaia's Cradle strategy that gets to use them. But other than that, functionally, the survivors don't get to do anything to you. They
Not being able to block is...
or attack.
Yeah, well, they can't do anything.
They don't. They just sit there. So unless your opponent can like very directly leverage them, which only a small number of decks could do, then like they're just useless. I will also say that the decks that can leverage them are like the green cord decks. This isn't getting it against them anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not super worried about it.
But then when you remove this...
Yeah, and then when they finally kill it, you get an army from them.
All right, I'm about to say something in favor of this card.
Yeah.
I do think the best text on this card is leaves the battlefield,
Yeah.
not dies.
Dies,
That is very, very important.
I think if it said dies, I wouldn't be high on it. But the fact that it's like you can flicker this and get the survivors.
Whoa!
You can just like Restoration Angel your Varchild, and all of a sudden
that's spicy.
You've got three more 1/1s to attack with. I just think this card is like it's very possible this card is like win more. Willing to entertain that it's win more, but I really like that sort of like mono red Death and Taxes archetype that I played for a little while, and this card's so good in that deck because that deck is like the play Mana Crypt and a mountain and something really powerful on turn 1.
I was going to say, you really, really love the fact that this is only 1 red.
Yeah, and so just like if you just get to play this on turn 1 or 2, like playing Elf into this is also probably just insane.
I hate that I'm trying to think of a way to turn your opponent's creatures into survivors. Like just give them that creature type.
It's very difficult. I imagine you could though.
No,
it's probably not worth it. It does steal changelings, actually. That's not irrelevant.
There's a blue instant that makes all creatures a creature type until end of turn.
Yeah.
So like Mirror Entity is a real card people play. Like occasionally. It's not like super popular, but this does steal Mirror Entity if it dies. Or leaves
And
the
if they
battlefield.
activate oh wait.
Well, it also
they
makes it so that they
activate
can't-
Mirror Entity
and then they can't attack.
to block this. And then you get all their creatures.
Sure. It's very good.
Also makes it so the mirror entity can't get... Anyway.
We're going a little deep. Anyway, I really like this card. I think it's going to be really cool to play early.
Pretty cool.
The obvious problem is that it does not have any additional text that helps it get in. I agree, but I think that it's so powerful when it does get in. I think you really only need to hit people once for it to be like already insane for the mana cost. So anyway, this card's really cool. I'm excited. Yeah. Next card we're talking about is a green card. This is Ravenous Slime. So this is 2 and a green for a creature ooze. It's a 1/1. Ravenous Slime can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Sort of pseudo trample that Watsy has been giving us recently. If a creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and put a number of 1/1 counters equal to that creature's power on Ravenous Slime. Alex, you sound excited.
This card's good. When I built mono green aggro, I found that this can't be blocked by creatures of so and so ability pretty good actually. Like the green ability that makes them harder to block is maybe a little better than you think because they don't get chumped.
Yeah.
Also, like, this is kind of incidentally a hate card where, you know, your trades and removal turn into exile effects, and then you
true,
just get.
actually.
I don't even think
huge.
it's incidentally. I think that's
Like
the,
part of
the
the reason to
entirety
play
of
it.
why you're playing it.
Yeah.
It's like Anaphens of the Foremost take 2, or
I-
Kalidas take 3.
This is maybe like a slam a jam into black mold.
Yeah.
Because,
Could definitely
like,
see that.
it's nice and splashy. You know, you play the kill spells that are just like,
I was going to say, one thing is I think you do want to play it in a deck that's playing a lot of removal spells.
Yeah, you
like,
need to be able to kill stuff. It can't just be incidentally.
like I think this is like the Nut High and Jund, for example.
ooh,
It's
or
like-
even just like Gruul,
Yeah, red-green is probably fine
Yep.
with this card, too.
burn him.
Yeah, no, this card's really exciting. I think it's quite cool.
Dig it.
Although I do think you want to be more mid-rangey as opposed to aggro with this card.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it does start out very slow and gives your opponent the ability to just ignore it. They're like, yep, I will take 1 till the cows come home.
But what when the cows do come up? It's not important. The next card we're talking about is Whip-Tongue Hydra. This is a 5 and a green lizard Hydra.
Okay.
It's a 4/4. It has a reach, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy all creatures with flying.
Whew.
Put a 1/1 counter on Whip-Tongue Hydra for each creature destroyed this way. Jerry, you were the one who wanted to talk about this card.
Yeah, so I don't think this is going to be like a lights out all-star in Highlander by any means, but I do think it can be a meta card if your opponent starts playing cards like Emissary of Grudges, a bunch of other dragons. You're dying to flying creatures, slam this, kill all the flyers, start getting in with 7/7
You know what this reminds me of?
meta card.
In Hoof.
The 6-mana destroy all enchantments and artifacts.
Yeah.
Bane of Progress.
Bane of Progress.
That one.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is a card that they don't always play, but when they do, it's really devastating.
This being a 4/4 too means it probably only needs to kill like 1 or 2 flyers to already be the biggest thing.
Yeah,
on the
Bane
board.
of Progress being a base 2/2 means it doesn't see play very often. And in Hoof, one of the ways you die most often is by flying creatures, where you have an army of ground creatures. There's no way you're ever dying on the ground, and they just like have
over you.
Vendilion Click and Nimble Obstructionist, and you're just like, ugh.
That Nibble Obstructionist card, real good, eh?
Yeah.
3 power.
All right. So that's basically it. Meta card.
Meta card,
Play him if it's good.
yeah.
We've got a lot of gold cards on this list.
That's because the gold cards are the most exciting part of this set.
Oh boy!
The first one we're talking about is Aminatou, the Fate Shifter. So this is the Esper Planeswalker. So it costs black, blue, and white. For a legendary planeswalker, it enters with 3 loyalty, and it has 3 abilities. For +1, you can draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your library.
Okay.
For -1, you can exile another target permanent you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. And then for -6, you choose left or right. Each player gains control of all non-land permanents other than Aminatou, the Fate Stitcher, controlled by the next player in the chosen direction.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so...
You exchange permanents with your opponent.
Yeah, you exchange permanents with your opponent.
Non-land.
So, Jared, do you want to talk about this card? We weren't insanely
Yeah.
high on it, but it's definitely interesting.
I'm not super high on this card for a couple of reasons. One, it is a 3-mana, 3 loyalty planeswalker that doesn't defend itself, so you can't play it on a board where your opponent is ahead. They're just gonna kill it, or they might actually just ignore this because it doesn't actually like threaten anything immediate either. It doesn't get you ahead on cards. It's +1, lets you set up the top of your deck, but then you're just drawing that card next turn anyways. You're not ahead on cards. You're just like I'd much rather loot, get my worst card out of here as opposed to being
back
forced
on
to
top of my
deal
deck.
with it again. I think it's -1 is going to be the reason you play it. If you do play it, you want to be doing some sort of flicker shenanigans, and it being only a -1 is a pretty powerful effect. Like most times, that ability
I
costs.
feel as though the -1. Sorry to interrupt you. The -1 might be the closest it gets to defending itself because you sort of give a creature you control vigilance.
But you could just not
Almost.
attack.
Yeah.
Like like usually when somebody plays a planeswalker, it just means you start winning on a different axis. You just start winning on like value and late game as opposed to just like you don't need to attack anymore.
Yeah.
You're just gonna win the game later on if this thing sticks around.
Well, it's really weird. Like these are weird abilities.
Yeah, they're definitely super different.
Also, the ultimate being like, exchange everything.
Well, the ultimate's great if you have an empty board, right? If you
Yeah.
get to ultimate this, you get to steal their board and give them nothing,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. But it's kind of odd because the ultimate's at odds with the -1. Like if you have permanents in play that you're flickering, that means you're going to be giving them permanents, so that's no good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, as Jared said, the +1 just like doesn't quite do enough for me either. I think I would want to either loot or something like that. I mean, obviously, if you look at the deck that this one's in, the Esper deck is all about miracles.
Top of the deck matters.
But
yeah.
in Highlander, there's just like not enough top of the deck matters cards that it's worth playing a card like this.
Yeah.
I think. All right, the next card we're talking about, Alex, I'm going to throw to you for sure. This is Varina Lich Queen. So this is 1 white, blue, black for a legendary creature zombie wizard. So it gets right into the wizard deck. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards. You gain that much life. And then for 2 and exiling 2 cards from your graveyard, you can create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Tapped.
Tapped.
And it's a 4/4.
And it's a 4/4.
I love this card. It's probably going to be the card that makes me build zombies into an Esper deck, because I've been sort of going. I just rebuilt it into Orzhov, and I've played it as blue-black before, and I was always sort of reluctant to broaden the mana out this far, but this is hard to turn down. So let's look at it. It's a 4/4 for 4. Great, sure. It's a zombie. It has that synergy. You can get benefit the turn it comes down, because if you play it into a board where you have any zombies, which you're likely to have, you loot, you gain life. It fuels its own ability, like on an empty board. Apart from this, you loot with itself, and then the activated ability. As you're looting, you are fueling its ability to make more zombies. So it's all self-contained.
I think this might be the most pushed Zombies Matters card that's ever been printed, right?
I think it's sweet.
I think Scarab God is more pushed.
But like, the Scarab God doesn't actually.
It's not a zombie.
It's not.
It's not a zombie, but it cares about zombies.
It cares
Yeah.
about zombies, but it doesn't actually fuel its own ability as well as this does, right? Like,
I really love internally synergistic cards like this.
I think this card is like super, super well designed and like fuels itself much better than the Scarab God. But the Scarab God is just like
it's pretty dumb.
It-
Like
I
Scarab
I think
God's
this card
pretty
might
dumb.
be better
Well,
interesting.
because it costs 1 less, right?
This card is very good.
Yeah.
it's quite good, and
Yeah.
I'm stoked to play it.
Yeah,
I-
I think it's an exciting one. What were you saying?
It's definitely better. This card is better than the Scarab God in the zombie deck. But I think the Scarab God is just like so good that you just like play it in any blue-black mid-range deck. Whereas I don't think you play this in Esper, for example.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of Esper, the next card we're talking about is Yannette, Cryptic Sovereign. So this is 2 white, blue, black for a legendary creature Sphinx. It's a 3/5. It has flying, vigilance, and menace.
Wow.
Presumably that's the black color identity coming in there, but odd. And then whenever Yannette, Cryptic Servant attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If that card's converted mana cost is odd, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, draw a card. I have a judge question.
Dang.
Yeah.
If I like reveal a card, can I like argue that the card's mana cost is weird, and as a
No.
result it's odd, so I should be able
Odd
to
is
cast?
defined as an odd numerical value.
What is 0?
It counts as even.
I see.
Yeah.
My brain hurts. Yeah. So
This has been Math Class with North 100.
I actually really like this card. I think it's very hard to remove. It's very good at blocking. It's very good at attacking. Like 3/5 Flying Vigilance Menace is like very difficult to beat in combat, and it's just gonna draw you a card every turn, or potentially let you start casting cards off the top of your library, which is very good.
Yeah, has Menace, or Vigilance, sorry, so it's like, gonna
Yeah.
get in, gonna block. I think it's pretty
I also
powerful.
like that if you by chance draw an odd numbered counter spell,
You don't have to cast
you don't
it.
have to. You
Exactly.
just draw it.
And then you just draw it. Yeah, that's true.
So your chances
sweet.
Your chances of bricking off of this are
0.
0.
yeah, it's 0.
Never
You
brick.
always draw.
Just always draws a card. That's actually really good. Huh. Sweet.
And like if you like hit like the Scarab God, for example, like you just get to put it into play for free.
Okay.
That's insane.
Yep, that is true.
Or you hit like odd numbered
So you
planeswalkers.
probably want to play this in a deck that has things that you want to be casting. Like in a pure control deck, it might not be.
Yeah,
quite
I don't
as
think
good.
it's great in control, but like I would play it in Esper midrange, for example.
Sweet.
Bruh.
Cool. All right, the next card we're talking about is the Bant card, Bant Planeswalker. This is Estrid the Masked.
Hello.
So Estrid is 1 green, white, blue for a legendary Planeswalker Estrid with 3 loyalty. For +2, you can untap each enchanted permanent you control.
Huh.
For -1, you can create a white aura enchantment token named Mask attached to another target permanent. This token has enchant permanent and totem armor. And then for -7, you can put the top 7 cards of your library into your graveyard, return all non-aura enchantment cards from the graveyard to the battlefield, then do the same for aura cards.
Oh, that's this is so weird.
This card is really weird. So, Jerry, you recently played Enchantress. Would you play this card in that deck?
No.
Okay, that's fair.
I just don't think it quite does enough. Although the +2 is really interesting because it has the potential to make a lot of mana.
That's what I was thinking.
Because you do play almost every enchant land card that makes more mana for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're playing
You can
like
also
all the
just
1
make-
mana ones, most of the 2 mana ones, and even some of the 3 mana ones.
You also get to like enchant your Sarah Sanctum with this.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I did lose several games to Armageddon, so if I got this in play and then started totem armoring some of my lands,
That would be powerful.
that would be very nice. But
Totem armor, for those of you who aren't aware, is an enchantment attribute where if the permanent it's attached to would be destroyed,
You destroy the totem.
you destroy
instead.
the totem instead.
yeah,
So it's kind of like,
and if you have multiple totem armor things enchanting the same thing, you choose which replacement effect.
you ever
to-
played
to
Super
use.
Ghouls and Ghosts?
No.
Okay, well, it's a knight guy, and when he gets hit, all his armor shoots off, and then he's in his underpants. And then if he gets hit again, he dies.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's like that.
Very unlucky. The next card we're talking about is Kestia the Cultivator. This is 1 green, blue, white for a legendary enchantment creature, Nymph. I think it's the first Nymph in Magic history. No, I'm wrong.
I'm
there are
willing
many
to bet.
from the Theros block.
Yeah, willing to bet that is
Yeah,
not
yeah,
true.
that's wrong. There are many sirens and stuff. I bet there's got to be other nymphs. But this is a 4/4. It's an enchantment creature, so it has Bestow for 3 green, white, blue. And if you bestow it, the enchanted creature gets 4/4. And whenever an enchanted creature or enchantment creature you control attacks, you draw a card. So this is kind of interesting. It's a 4/4 that draws a card every time it attacks, or it can be even make something really big and also make it draw a card. It's kind of interesting in like decks that are playing enchantments. I just think this card lacks a home currently.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough things. Like, there's only really one deck you could maybe play it in, and that's Boggles, I think.
I was just gonna say,
But
yeah.
it's so expensive, right? And they're just like gonna have removal in their hand because you have Boggles. in play.
Exactly, and the whole point of that reason of that deck is to strand removal,
Yeah,
and so
it's kind of awkward.
yeah.
Anyway, so interesting, but probably not playable. The next card we're talking about is Tuvasa the Sunlit. This is green, white, blue for a legendary creature, Merfolk Shaman. Merfolk. It's a 1/1, and when Tuvasa the Sunlit gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and whenever you cast your first enchantment spell each turn, you draw a card.
Get it in to Enchantress.
Interestingly, apparently, maybe don't get it in, right?
Really?
Serge and Jared, we talked about it.
Really?
Yeah, on the weekend, and neither of you were that high on this card, right?
No, the big advantage to Enchantresses is that you get to have these turns where you're like, cast enchantment, draw a card, cast enchantment, draw a card, cast
Right,
enchantment,
right.
draw a card, cast enchantment, draw a card. Since you're making a bunch of, you're spending like ideally the first couple turns putting like a bunch of enchant lands on your lands to make more mana than playing Sarah Sanctum.
Does the potential power of this card offset that at all?
Not really, because like the whole idea is you pillow fort up so they can't attack. They just have a bunch of blockers back. Like
And then you also can't attack through many of the Pillow Fort cards.
How does
you
it-
can through most of them. It's just like Moat doesn't let you.
I haven't
Island
like seen this
Sanctuary.
deck in a while, but like, how does Enchantress win?
Slowly.
Yes, slowly. Often with like Sigil of the Empty Throne is one of the best ways to win. That's 3 white for an enchantment that reads whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you make a 4/4 flying angel.
Okay, that's
So
pretty
it's like
big.
kind of like an enchantress, except instead of drawing a card, you make a 4/4 flyer.
Instead of drawing a card, you kill them.
Yeah. You can also win by some number of combos. Earthcraft Squirrel Nest almost always gets in just because they're both enchantments. You often play like Leyline of the Void and Rest in Peace with Helm of Obedience because half of them are enchantments. you'll often play Luminarch Ascension. Sometimes you'll play like really big dum-dums like Emrakul,
Yeah.
just because you have the ability to draw out the game and make a ton of mana. So like,
This doesn't really fit into any of those plans, though.
not really, because it's not really good. Like realistically, this card isn't going to beat most decks by itself. They're going to draw a removal spell eventually, or just have enough blockers, or it's not going to be able to attack because you have a moat in play.
Fair enough. All right. The next card we're talking about is Lord Windgrace, and it's kind of a shame that Serge isn't here for this set review because two of the decks are literally his pet decks. They're lands and Enchantress, but that's
Yeah.
okay. So this is the Jund Planeswalker from the Lands Matter deck. This is 2 green, red, black for a legendary Planeswalker Windgrace. It has 5 loyalty, and its abilities are +2, discard a card, then draw a card. If it's a land card discarded this way, draw an additional card. Its -3 is return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, untapped. And then the -11 is destroy up to 6 target non-land permanents, then create 6 2/2 green cat warrior tokens with Forest Walk.
Wow.
Yeah, so problematically, this card also doesn't really defend itself.
You're right, but it goes up to 7 loyalty.
That's true. Goes
Yeah,
much higher.
unlike going to 4 loyalty, going to 7 loyalty often means it's going to survive at least a turn of hits or absorb a lot of damage.
It also generates you card advantage on the first turn. If
Yeah, I was
use
gonna
land.
say, like, it's gonna go up to 7 loyalty and potentially draw you 2 cards.
Also, one thing I want to point out
Draw 1, because you have to discard a card.
early on with this card is that this is one of the only cards that enables you to put both Thespian Stage and Dark Depths into play untapped from your graveyard.
Whoa,
that's cool.
Yeah. Oh man, is this the card that makes Realms
Uncharted.
Uncharted play? No, it
We need a land to make that card playable, unfortunately. Remember when we talked about that card, the comments were like, oh, why don't you just put Noxious Revival in the stack? And it's
Well,
like,
no. But you like play that, then play this.
oh, sure, you can just like play Realms Uncharted, find Depth Stage, only get them in the graveyard, then play this. Yeah,
It's not good.
it's not great.
It's not good.
No.
Anyway, but this
But I
card
mean-
seems really cool.
If you had this in play and cast Realms Uncharted,
They're just-
that's a
yeah.
line you could take.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just-
just like get 'em.
Anyway, so this card definitely good in the lands deck. Do we think people are going to play it in anything else? Or is
Probably
it
not.
Too low impact in other decks.
I just don't think it does enough.
Okay.
But
Even filtering through draws, just too expensive, not worth the slot.
Yeah, it does filter through draws, but it doesn't actually help you win the game until you ultimate it, and
Okay.
it is a ways off ultimating. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, the next card we're talking about is Gyrus, Waker of Corpses. So this is X green, black, red.
gross.
Yeah, for a legendary Hydra, it's a 0/0, but when it enters the battlefield, Gyrus, Waker of Corpses enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. Whenever it attacks, you can exile target creature card with lesser power from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card that's tapped and attacking, exile that token at end of combat. So right away, one big issue with a lot of the Hydras is that they're just like, they have a big upfront mana cost before they get bigger. And I think that, unfortunately for this card, the fact that it's got the whole Jund color pie means that it's really expensive to get this card to a reasonable size.
I don't think so. It's
Not at
not.
all.
It's not X. It's just mana spent to cast it.
Oh, so it's just a 4/4.
so
you cast it for...
it starts. You
Mm.
cast it.
It's a
X
3/3.
is 0. It's a 3/3.
Okay, never mind. That's not so bad.
This
Yeah.
is kind of, yeah. I think I misread this card when I first saw it. This looks a lot better than I thought.
I actually think this card's pretty good.
Yeah, you
This-
just get to cast it as like a 3/3 or a 4/4.
So okay,
Yeah.
what deck wants to play this?
Jund
Monsters,
mid-range.
yeah. There's like a monsters deck too.
Yeah.
You could play it.
I mean,
sure.
yeah, it just like gets additional value. Like, yeah, it's floor of just being a 3/3 for 3, and then like this is a sweet top deck.
Mhm.
This is a sick top deck.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Nice
would
menacing.
like more Hydras to be like this,
Where it's mana
where
spent.
it's mana spent, because
I
like
agree.
It
the
makes such a
worst
big
are just
difference.
like green X Hydra. It's garbage.
Yeah,
you
no, it's
can't
true.
play it.
Even green X is like really awkward.
It's
like where
yeah,
you're paying-
it's so much
Unless
worse
you
than you
need
think.
like a lot of other upside. Like Mistcutter Hydra is probably the only playable one I can think of, and
Well,
that's because
and Genesis Hydra is playable because it's a combo card.
Yeah.
But you're never casting that card for fair.
you're casting that card for infinite always.
Yeah. Do you really think Mistcutter Hydra is good?
It's like, I think it's playable.
I
in
said
red
it's
meta.
like the only playable one, and that's because it can't be countered
Yeah, I've
And
died
it
to
has
that
haste.
card many
and
times.
has haste.
And has protection from blue.
It's green
It has
fireball.
a lot of upside, and it's like maybe the only playable one.
Okay.
Yep. All right, next card we're talking about is Saheeli the Gifted.
Hey.
This is 2 blue-red for a legendary planeswalker Saheeli. It comes in with 4 loyalty. The +1 creates a colorless servo artifact creature.
Ah, finally.
And then the other +1 says the next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less for each artifact you control as you cast it. Then the -7 says for each artifact you control, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of your next end step.
So, okay, we finally have a planeswalker that defends itself.
Correct. And it also makes casting spells cheaper.
And it synergizes with all of its own abilities.
Yep.
Like with no other cards in play, this will do stuff.
Yep. My biggest concern is I don't know the home for this card. Yet.
Is it
I
not
think
a
he gets
shoo-in
into
for
like
Academy?
the artifact mid-range decks I've been trying to brew for a while.
Yeah. The problem with playing in an academy is that it's kind of low impact to be in one of your gas spots, and it's kind of expensive to be one of your setup cards. So it's kind of splitting the difference. I agree that like the +1 into like casting +1 into cast Time Twister or Time Spiral for 2 mana sounds very good, but I think that's like maybe a little magical Christmas Landy. I don't know, maybe not. Certainly lets you cast like your Emrakuls for a lot less mana, those sorts of things. Like it does powerful things. Maybe it is just playable. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Anyway, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, its second plus is like target spell gains affinity.
That is actually what it does. Yeah, no, that's true. Maybe it is just good.
Yeah.
Huh.
Give your Walking Ballista affinity. That's pretty
That's quite good. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, that's sort of interesting.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
just like have like 6 artifacts
And-
in play, get to play Walking Ballista for 3 for 0 mana.
And the fact that it's an uptick really matters a lot. Like
It
the
does,
fact
yeah.
that you get to keep doing this, and even if you do it for low value on a couple of turns, you're still like marching towards the ultimate, which is also very good.
And if you don't have any value targets, you just get to like make a minimal board impact and make your second ability better.
Yeah. All right. I'm sold. This card seems reasonable.
Cool.
I think it is reasonable. I
right.
don't think it's like an all-star in any deck, but I think it's a reasonable role player in a few.
All right. So the next card we have is Tawnos, Urza's Apprentice. It's the first time this character has actually appeared on a card, right? We've heard about his Candelabra and a couple of other things, though the Candelabra is maybe the most memorable part, which doesn't feature in the art for some reason. What a shame. So this is a blue-red 1/3. It's a human artificer with haste, and it has an activated ability for blue and red and tap, which is copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for that copy. So this copy's Time Vault's ability, and you can go infinite if you have Time Vault untapped once, is the one awkward thing.
How does it go? Oh, because it gives you 2 turns.
You get 2 turns,
then
then you skip one of the turns.
Take a turn.
Then take your turn, make
Okay.
2 turns.
Yeah.
So-
But if you have any way of untapping Time Vault, then it's
well, if you have like Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch to get the first turn.
Or you just skip a turn.
Or you just skip a turn.
Don't
yeah.
die. Then
Do you ever
play
skip a
this
turn
and do
in
that.
Time Vault?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you
Really?
do. Yeah, there's a...
Because the way it works is that it's a replacement effect for starting your turn. So like a blue deck passes with all their mana up, they did nothing on their turn. They're obviously just going to cast counter magic or maybe a draw spell.
Huh.
Then instead of your turn, you're just like, I'll untap my Time Vault, your turn. They don't get to respond. They don't then get to use their mana. Their mana is just gone.
Yep, they can't cast a draw spell or anything. You just decide you're replacing it.
They can't activate their Stoneforge Mystic on your end step.
Yeah.
Your end step just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so it's really powerful for that.
Huh.
I have not untapped Time Vault, or I've untapped Time Vault before to keep my Ruhan of the Fomori untapped so they could block. I think I've told that story before.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so this card's interesting. I don't see it having a whole lot of use besides that, but it does combo with Time Vault, so it's worth talking about.
What deck were you playing Time Vault and Ruhan?
Yeah, I just let that
Wait a
one.
minute.
I was wondering why that slipped by. I mean, it was like Jeskai Time Vault with the mid-range.
Okay, sure, why not?
Look, it's a 7/7. Just wins the game. All right, this is fine. The next card we're talking about is Zancha.
Sorry, just on this, it's also very, very good in Paradox Academy. I'm not sure if it's good enough to see play just because it is a creature and that deck often strands creature removal. But if you do have Paradox and the ability to make like at least blue-red,
You get to copy the Paradox trigger.
yeah.
Oh, that's...
And it untaps itself, so that's potentially just infinite mana.
Okay, that's fair. That's very good. Huh.
Well,
Right, that is just infinite mana, right? If you can make blue-red.
Yes.
You put a trigger on the stack, you copy it, this untaps itself. Okay, that's worth saying. So if you can make blue-red plus a mana, you can make infinite mana with this in Paradox Engine?
Yes.
Okay, that's probably worth... Yeah, okay, so that's very good.
And it has haste, so the ability to like
Do it on the turn you play it.
do it on the turn you're going off with is like not unreasonable.
All right, well, that's very good. All right,
it's
the next
also got
card...
3 toughness, so it blocks pikers all day.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. The next card we're talking about is Xantia, Sleeper Agent. This is one black-red for a legendary creature minion. It's a 5/5. As it enters the battlefield, an opponent of your choice gains control of it. When Xantia attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner or planeswalker its owner controls. And then for 3 colorless, Xantia's controller loses 2 life and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability. So in a 1v1 context, you give them this 5/5, and then you start paying their life to draw cards for yourself. And they can never attack you with it. It blocks, which is the one problem. But I think that there's got to be some kind of way that you can abuse this. They also get to draw cards, but their life total is inherently pressured because this ability makes it so that your pressure and their life total as well. Isn't this card so cool?
What a weird card. I completely missed this one.
Yeah, me too. Well, I didn't because Sleeper Agent is one of my favorite cards, but I like this card.
Okay.
It's really neat. So Jared talked about maybe Stacks is maybe the home for this card,
That's the only thing I can think
where
of.
you're kind of like stranding cards in their hand. I can't think of a ton of other decks that want to play it. Maybe just Burn, like a black-red kind of medium Burn deck. Oh, I think it sounds really good in that deck.
You want to pay 3 colorless to dome them for 2 and draw?
Yeah, so I can draw more burn spells. I'm talking like slow burn, no creatures,
All right.
like library.
Except for this?
Yeah. Well, this is like not a creature.
Not
it's
really
just
a
an
creature.
enchantment.
All right, sure.
Anyway, I think this card's really cool. The next card we're talking about is Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow. So this is 1 blue-black for a legendary creature, Human Ninja, with it's a 1/3. It has Commander Ninjutsu, which for the sake of us just means ninjutsu. Don't worry about that commander word. It's just an addendum to an already existing ability.
Oh!
Yeah, so it just
I
has,
didn't read this. I thought it was only from the command zone.
No. You can just do it from your hand.
Go on.
So whenever
And it's blue-black to activate.
yes, and it costs blue-black to
ninjutsu
activate.
ability.
Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. There are a bunch of ninjas you can play. I haven't figured out exactly which ones I want to yet, but there's like a bunch. And the fact that you can just like attack with some of them nonchalantly, then activate this and potentially like 6 or 7 your
You're
opponent.
bobbing wrong.
Yeah, this card's great. So I think this card's really interesting. It's just like better Shadow Mage Infiltrator in a lot of ways. Doesn't have evasion, which is a bit of a problem.
I don't know. I don't think it's a fair comparison. I think they're different cards.
Sure. But I just like this card a lot. I think it's very cool.
Wow.
I think that's allowed.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I think even getting like 1 activation out of this is like
Already
very
insane.
much worth. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So anyway, so this card's really neat. I'm hoping to brew with it a little bit, see if we can get some ninjas into play.
Oh, wait. Oh, no, she's not a rogue, unfortunately.
No Prowl, unfortunately.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got 2 more cards we're going to talk about, and then we're going to wrap up the show. The first is an artifact called Coveted Jewel. This is a 6-mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. And you can add 3 mana of any one color. This card sounds insane. Whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attack you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it.
Huh.
Yeah. So, Jared, do you want to tell us
it's
the
like
spice?
it's like the yes, no meme.
Yeah. Yes,
like so
yes,
close.
no.
So I think there's literally only one deck that can maybe play this, and that is Paradox Academy, as we've already been
Mentioned.
talking about
Well, yeah.
all day. And that's because that deck has the highest potential to just play this card and win the game with it in play.
This is a pretty stupid play for them.
Yeah, with Paradox Engine in play, it's like
It's
they
both gas and
they
mana.
want 2 things. They want mana, especially like Gilded Lotus effects that make a lot of mana from one thing of colored, and they want draw spells so they don't run out of gas to use. And this is both of those.
Yeah, that seems insane
In one
Paradox. Because you're just like, slam this, rip 3, make mana, play a rock, untap this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideally off to the races. Well, like you just like cast this, cast 2 rocks, cast a Time Twister, and then
Yeah.
Go home.
So anyway, so that's the home for this card. There's obviously a lot of risk associated. If you get attacked, it's very bad. But hopefully you don't get attacked. Hopefully you just kill them or they don't have creatures.
Yes.
The last card we're talking about is Endless Atlas. So this is 2 mana for an artifact that has an ability which is 2 and tap. To activate it, you get to draw a card. You can activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name.
So in Highlander, that will be
Basics.
basics.
Yeah, basic lands.
So what deck places?
Mono black maybe.
I could see playing
Mono
it
red,
in
maybe.
either big red or big black.
Are the 2 decks we were thinking. I could see there's a big blue archetype as well. You could probably play it in that as well.
Yeah.
Big white.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. There's the best archetype of those, which is the big white archetype, which definitely wants more card draw. Yeah.
Does it? Who knows?
So anyway, so that's Endless Atlas, maybe playable in some of the artifact single color decks. And that's our set review. That's everything from Commander 2018. So if you have any other cards you're curious about, feel free to tweet at us. We only talked about new cards. There are a bunch of reprints in this set, which are powerful in Highlander, but we've talked about many of those cards before.
They're known quantities.
They're for the most part known quantities. So without further ado, we're going to end the show with our ending segment, which is Powerful Magic.
It's like he's really here.
I am here. I'm the one who makes that noise.
All right.
All right.
Anyway.
All right.
It's me.
It's Jer. Tell us our story.
All right. So recently, as we alluded to earlier, I've been playing Enchantress, and that leads to some pretty wacky games. But the wackiest game I was playing against good friend Chris. They were playing Flying Men, and it was our game 2. Game 1, I managed to get him with Overwhelming Splendor, which is not what Flying Men wants to see. It's 6 white. You can't do anything. Your creatures can't do anything.
Oh yeah, this is
One-sided humility.
backbreaking.
No fun. Yeah. And then in game 2, we were playing a really grindy game. I managed to stick some Enchantresses and eventually set up some locks, but he drew a million counter spells. And so eventually, and I was drawing I had 3 Enchantresses in play, like basically from turn 5 onwards. So like I was discarding to hand size every turn. Eventually I stopped playing enchantments because I was afraid I was going to deck myself. And then I eventually drew Sterling Grove, which is 1 and a green enchantment, gives all my other enchantments Shroud, and you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to search your library for an enchantment card and reveal it, put it on top. And so I sacrificed this to look for an enchantment because I was like, I didn't have any way to win the game. They'd countered my Sigil of the Empty Throne. They misdirected my Squirrel Nest onto one of their lands.
Whoa!
when I had Earthcraft
That's
in play.
hot.
They'd stymied my Courser of Krufix beatdown.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Flying Men don't actually block Courser of Krufix very well.
No, fair enough.
Like, you need 4. And so I was actually running out of ways to actually be able to win a game. And so I went through my deck, and my literal last win condition was Luminarch Ascension. So I tutored that one up, and then I had to wait for a turn where I thought it was safe to play it. And I eventually resolved it because they had Spell Pierce, Mana Leak, and Miscalculation in their hand. Cast all of them, but I was able to tap one land to pay the 7 I needed.
Oh,
I had Serra Sanctum and maybe 20 enchantments in play.
Uh-huh.
And so eventually, after 4 more turns, I just like tapped Serra Sanctum and was like, make enough.
Forget.
But if he just had like a Spell Snare or even Arcane Denial, like literally any other counterspell, I was just.
Were you
dead.
going to concede if he countered it?
Yeah.
Okay. Even though you won game 1.
Yeah.
I see. Very honorable of you.
Well, it was like, it was actually the 2-1 bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have conceded.
All right, fair enough. But you won anyway.
Yeah.
Good.
This resolved and it got us there. I have a sick foil Zendikar Luminarch Ascension.
That's
so
pretty cool.
Sweet.
looks really pretty. So yeah, I'm gonna consider putting in maybe 1 or 2 more win conditions.
Maybe an Emrakul, something that can't be countered. Maybe it wins too much.
Well, Emrakul is nice because then when you're overdrawing and worried about decking, you can discard it to shuffle your graveyard back in.
Yep.
The one downside is I had Rest in Peace this game, so
That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I don't know. Deck's super sweet to play. Don't play it if you need to practice it and
You gotta play
very
fast.
quickly.
Yeah.
These games will not be over quickly.
All right. Well, thanks so much for the story. That was great. A reminder, thanks so much for watching. And a reminder quickly before we close down the show that everything you see today and see on the LoadingReadyRun network is brought to you by you at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. So thanks so much for your support. We couldn't do this without you, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.